This is Battlefield 6. We're here on the PlayStation 5, the base PlayStation 5. Be sure to like the video, subscribing is great as well. We're doing a two-focus thing. We're starting with the campaign, and then we'll be showing off the multiplayer experience, talking about the overall package, and what you get here on the base PlayStation 5 console. For the latest entry in the Battlefield franchise that returns to the modern era, or well, slightly future, I guess a couple of years on from the point of doing this, but you get what I'm talking about. So we've got the return of Battlefield action with a bit more of a tighter focus, and the return of a campaign because 2042 did not have a campaign. That has returned for, well, Battlefield 6 here. So we've got a story mode that is kind of terrible. Honestly, it's not very good. Definitely not really recommend on that one. But this is something that is present, and we're going to be diving in and just kind of talking about what it has to offer. So it's something that's like 5-ish hours long. You're going to be, playing as this group of Americans in what is the most patriotic Battlefield experience they've ever put together. It really is very U.S. focused. Essentially, it's a conflict between NATO and this PMC, like a merc group, a mercenary crew, kind of that's built up, and they've got issues that they're causing around the world, and you're sort of fighting back as America gets these problems across a few distinct areas. You've got a sort of a mountainous Kyrgyzstan kind of area, which totally butchered that, but there's also Brooklyn and then Cairo. That's kind of... Oh, and then of course the area we're fighting in right here, we're attacking the beach, but very focused locations that you are kind of fighting along. You get the typical missions. No jet mission though, which was a bit of a bummer, needless to say. Actually, I was kind of like, oh, no jet mission. I was like, that's weird. But yeah, essentially the storyboard here was sort of just like, okay, we'll make it like Battlefield 3. It feels like a campaign that would have been okay during the PS3 360 era, which is not great for the modern era. And then it's like kind of a greatest hits kind of taken from Call of Duty, which is kind of funny to think about, but yeah, that's kind of what you're sort of dealing with on this one as far as kind of the game's campaign and setup. And you're playing as a squad, and you're kind of switching between them depending on the mission you're doing. Everybody's got like a different asset. One is a sniper, and one is kind of a commanding unit. And they frame the story similar to like Battlefield 3, where it's kind of like you see the end of the game, and then they kind of do like flashback stuff up to it, and it's just a bunch of really tight cinematic moments. It doesn't really have sort of a large-scale like flair to it. You're kind of just going through it, and it's a little hard to follow, and it's really hard to... Well, I mean, it's straightforward in what it is, but it's like hard to follow in the sense that a lot of it's just kind of like a little nonsensical, and it's jumpy around a little bit, like it jumps around quite a bit. And then as far as the believability factor of this Armada group going up against NATO, it's genuinely hard to believe. It just seems a little silly, and they don't really sell it very well either. And yeah, I don't know. It just kind of missed the whole factor when it used to fight against like nations, and it almost gets to the point where I kind of wish that they would have just come up with like a different alternate Earth or something. Would have been maybe a little bit more appealing as far as just like believability of that, because it's just, yeah, it feels a little silly that there's this group, and even when you get to like everything all kind of wrapping up, it feels very, very silly. Like the whole thing is a bit awkward. So let's dive in and segue to the technical stuff. So in the options, we've got a couple different visual settings here. So we've been playing on performance. We're going to switch to balanced, and then we'll go back to performance for the multiplayer portion of it. So the campaign, I would recommend playing on balance for a slightly higher visual setting. So performance mode that you were seeing, both of these modes are outputting at 4K, but they're like temporally scaling to there. Both of them are roughly targeting the internal 1080p. It's just the range for performance mode goes quite a bit lower as far as like the dynamic changing based on what's going on your screen. Balance going for 60 FPS, solid rock, solid great. And then performance mode targeting 120 FPS, but you're getting more like 80, 90-ish, something around there as far as performance for the performance mode. So there you go. And there's HDR support, FOV options for vehicles, guns, everything like that. Film grain, chromatic aberration settings, motion blur, various things. HUD options. There is also accessibility stuff, controller and mouse and keyboard support if you want to go and do that with settings. And then I think that was about it for stuff, and then crossplay, and there's like a streamer mode too if you want to be anonymous in that. Yeah, so that's just some of the settings here. So yeah, we're on the quality mode now, which realistically I probably should have started the video with, but whatever. You can see a little bit of a look at it when we're on foot for the detail, and you can just see that it does retain the visual detail a little bit better. The game is pretty good looking. The campaign, however, is a little rougher than the online multiplayer as far as visuals go, which is kind of weird. Like, this stuff looks fine, but there's like this weird mix of like some really obscenely like low textures and some pretty like low quality environments in the campaign. And that's where I was saying is like a lot of it feels really reminiscent of like PS3 360 era. Like, it is a very, like, the AI just kind of stands there and gets shot. It's little set pieces. It's not really interesting either. Like, it's kind of mundane. I tried to pick a level that was different from my PS5 Pro review, and also had, like, a good amount of action and stuff, and I think this one does a pretty good job with it, and, you know, it looks kind of neat and kind of sells you maybe a little bit better on it. But, yeah, I wasn't thrilled with the campaign. I think its characters and its story bits are pretty... they're not very memorable, and I didn't find it was a very strong campaign and story, and it was kind of like, even while I was playing it, I was like kind of just hoping it would kind of reach its conclusion sooner than later, and even the themes feel really like underdeveloped. Like, they're trying to do this whole theme of being like a sole survivor kind of thing. They're reinforcing that here. He's like, I'm the last one and stuff, and it's just... Yeah, I mean, it's a choice. Yeah, a lot of it's like you watch it too, and then there's all these like pre-rendered kind of cinematics as well, and it's this sort of jarring transition between like actual gameplay and then like these cinematic bits, and it's like, oh, it definitely could have been handled, I think, a lot better as a campaign. It feels rushed, honestly. Like, it feels quite rushed, and it's... Yeah, I don't know. It's very tight. It's very linear. You get a little bit of that battlefield destruction, but most of it is like... Yeah, it's just these cinematic bits. It feels really aged, and it feels out of pace, and you're just kind of going through these areas, just kind of blasting. So like right there, it's just like this jarring transition between gameplay and like cinematic bits. And there are different difficulty options. There's some collectibles. It's just, yeah, I don't know. I really didn't find it very engaging and interesting. I wouldn't even recommend necessarily like playing it. But yeah, and then you get down to, you get like revived from your guys. You get a couple lives before there's like a checkpoint thing, and it is little bugs here or there. It's a little stuff. It's just, yeah, I really wasn't too thrilled by this campaign. I don't know what I was expecting. I had pretty, like, I think I had pretty low expectations. And at the same time, I felt a little underwhelmed, even with those really low sort of thoughts on it. And yeah, it's a bit of a bummer. I was certainly hoping for a little bit more out of this campaign. And I know Battlefield's never really been known for its story stuff, but it's still... I keep hoping one of these times they'll deliver something, you know, sort of jaw-dropping or more, you know, kind of on a Battlefield, like a big sense of scale and like awe and everything. And maybe someday they'll deliver on that, but for now it's pretty middling to pretty bad campaign that you're just gonna completely forget about, I think, as soon as you play through it. Or you might even drop it halfway through and just kind of be like, yeah, you know, I'm not into this at all, and I think that's totally fair for what this sort of is providing. This is the multiplayer portion of the Battlefield 6 experience. We're showcasing Conquest here, so you see a little bit of scale and a little bit of vehicle action, even though I don't appear to be getting in any of the vehicles at all, except for like a sad ATV and the tank kind of thing gets in my way. That's great. So we're showing this off on the performance mode in case you were wondering or skipped the campaign portion of the video that talked about the technical details of this, just so you are aware. So when it comes to the multiplayer, it is your traditional Battlefield setups. You get things such as Conquest, you can Breakthrough, which is quite broken at the moment, and you get some supplementary modes and some little twists here and there that they're introducing as far as like trying to mix things up, tighter close quarters matches, you know, little types of different, you know, game modes, attack, defending, escalation stuff, you know, just to mix it up a little bit, try something new with the community, which is totally fine. So as far as the game goes, the map selection is very specific regionally. So you've essentially got a setup of maps where, and I don't like doing this as far as reviews, but talking about like the beta, you basically, if you played the beta, you played the full game. There's like a couple more maps, but that was basically it. So if you were disappointed in the scale of the maps, the Call of Duty-ification of Battlefield is definitely a go. These maps are small. One of the maps that wasn't in the beta, the Valley, that one is like a regular-sized Battlefield map, but yeah, the sense of scale and everything is definitely quite gone. A de-emphasis on vehicles, a de-emphasis on planes and such is what has happened here, which is a bit of a shame, but you know, if you like the tighter, faster, close, you know, quarters combat action, this game will deliver something like that. It's a Battlefield, but it's Call of Duty in a slightly larger sort of basket. Back in the day, this would have been, you know, they would have released a Medal of Honor game, and that's sort of what this gameplay vibe would have been like in, you know, you go back to the PS3, 360 era, how they were doing a big Battlefield and then a tighter Medal of Honor game. That's kind of what this reminds me of. So if you are expecting large-scale maps, that's just not the case here. Which you'll either be into or you won't be into, and of course it's personal preference. But other than that, you know, gameplay is pretty solid. It's fun. It's fine. It works pretty well. You know, you go through the motions. You got your different classes. You've got your personalization. You can adjust your guns and your attachments to your guns and change up your guns and unlock all kinds of stuff. And then change what kind of abilities you have in your classes too, and, you know, improve upon that. You get different assets and tools as you progress and complete goals and objectives and blah blah blah. You know, your usual progression thing that you would experience in a video game. That's all present here, especially in a modern shooter. They've got a selection of different modes. They've got, I'm assuming, a steady pipeline will probably be coming down the road to keep you engaged. The launch selection of maps is okay. I wish there was more, or maybe a little bit more variation. That's the thing I was kind of realizing. The more and more I play it, the more I'm kind of like, weirdly, all the Brooklyn maps, they really feel like I'm playing X-Defiant or The Division, just from like the look and everything. And it's kind of weird, because usually when a Battlefield game launches, you get a wide variety of maps. And in this game, it's like, there's a decent selection, they're small, but I think a big issue is it's the same sort of scenery over and over again, just slightly changed. And I think that negatively impacts things a bit, because you're not really getting that distinct variation that kind of keeps it fresh when you're playing it. So it kind of makes you feel, more so than usual, that you're playing the exact same thing over and over and over again, which is getting a little exhausting from my perspective. I've played a lot of this in a very, very tight proximity, and it's like I am genuinely feeling the repetitiveness of this. Which isn't great to be feeling already, because it just came out. But, you know, it'll probably get better over time with more content, and hopefully we get things, because, like, you know, again, the emphasis on planes, naval stuff, say goodbye to, you know, it's like, yeah, and it plays fine. Like, again, the combat's fine, the shooting's good, the reviving, the core mechanics, everything is here. It's just the scale of the maps and the de-emphasis of vehicle play is kind of driving me crazy. In Conquest, obviously, you get the best level of vehicle action. And I thought I'd mix it up. I play Breakthrough, and Breakthrough I think really needs some reworking. So for Breakthrough, with the maps that they had in the beta, those maps are totally fine. They work well, they flow, you know, you can win, you can lose. But it seems like the maps that weren't in the beta, there's a real struggle in actually getting the attackers to progress. I've noticed almost every match, they just get halted right on the line, right at the beginning. And there's like literally no progression. And that's kind of boring because you want to feel that sense of, hey, you're going across these maps, you are breaking through, or you're putting up a good defense. And it just seems like it's completely lopsided against the attackers. This is a lot blurrier than it is on the PlayStation 5 Pro. I'm just gonna throw that out there. Genuinely, like, it is actually a lot blurrier on this mode, quite noticeably. Which is an interesting observation, especially coming from like beta and everything like that. Yeah, but you know, it's a fine Battlefield experience. If you liked what you saw in the beta, the full game is more of that. If you want larger scale, you're not really getting that here. But you're still getting a largely Battlefield reminiscent experience of tight, close quarters combat. It feels like they are sacrificing quite a bit of the identity of the game, if that makes sense. Like, it seems like they are sort of being like, oh, it's okay, wow, our team is bad. Are we real players? Like, this is, And even, you see that represented in a lot of the lobbies and stuff, too, is they have shrunken the player sizes of matches considerably. You know, Breakthrough is very small player sizes, and you don't get that scale, and it's they've gone for tightness. The maps are a lot better than they were in 2042 in terms of cover. You'd almost say there's too much cover. And you know, I'm going to switch to a different lobby. This is pretty Doom-like. It just feels like that identity is sort of, like, slipped away. You know, we've got tighter player lobby sizes. We've got less vehicle action. We've got matches and maps that are tighter, and you're more pushed to specific lanes as opposed to carving out your environment. The damage and the destruction looks a lot better in this game, but it is much more of a facade than it was in traditional Battlefield games. You know, you can complain about 2042, but the map size and scale definitely was quite Battlefield-esque, especially as they went and fixed things up and adjusted things and got that game into a better shape than it was. But it's still, like, it's such a switch up to go from, you know, Battlefield being large-scale, intense, exciting action to being tight, frantic, close quarters combat. You really do genuinely feel the difference in how you play the game. And it's a little worrisome from a perspective of having played Battlefield over decades at this point. It's a little like, uh-oh, if this is going to be the direction of it, it's definitely, and it's working so far it seems, so it's just a little worrisome that we're not going to get the Battlefield that we kind of know and expect, and it's sacrificed for chasing after Call of Duty, and that is not ideal, at least for me, because I like Battlefield for what Battlefield is. Yeah, I play it because it's something different. If it becomes the same as everything else, it's like, yeah, what's the point? But if it's what people want, and it's what people are desiring, and that's how it goes, then that's how it goes. But I kind of sit here and those are, like, I have some genuine, I think, okay critiques and problems here or there about the game. Because fundamentally, I think it's fine, I think it's fun. Definitely getting a little burnt out of it for sure. The campaign I thought was genuinely quite terrible, and it really does, personally to me, have some big issues. But the multiplayer, it works fine. It definitely offers, you know, some different maps for you to fight on, some different game modes. It's quick action, they've got the different class setups. It's a really good foundation to build from, and I think this could be a long-term, pretty mighty, well-loved Battlefield experience. I just also ponder, you know, as I've said a few times over, are we going to sacrifice the identity of the series in order to achieve that? Is it going to morph into something different? Would they have been maybe better going for, like, calling this Medal of Honor a little bit more and then doing something a little larger for another Battlefield? I don't know. It's interesting. and I think for the most part you'll be pleased by its gameplay. The campaign, probably stay away from, but multiplayer, it works. It's action-packed, cool settings and setups, and yeah, it's not bad.